Hi everyone, this is Nico71 and you are watching the design secrets of this Lego Technic creation, which is an alternate model of the Lego Technic set 42127 Batmobile with the complete story and design process behind. Let's go! This bucket hot rod features a steering connected to the steering wheel, rear-wheel drive with fake V8 engine, opening door, removable air top, and light bricks to illuminate the engine and the rear light. If you own this set, you can build this bucket hot rod. It measures 32 cm long, 18 cm wide and 12 cm high. But before we start, I just wanted to wish you an happy new year, full of Lego and successful project. When the Batmobile was announced, it was a meh for me. Nice looking, especially the front, but a lack of functions for its size. No suspension, no walk-in steering wheel and of course no B model. The light bricks are cool features in Technic, but the rear one is fail for me, as it is too far from the engine to illuminate correctly. That is why I wanted to make an alternate model of this set with better illumination and different placement for the elements. There were not many options because of the different size between the front and the rear wheels, so I chose to make a bucket hot rod with a front engine and removable roof for a better accessibility to the steering wheel. The steering is made using a classic rack and pinion solution, but I have put the pinion underneath the rack to have the steering axle as low as possible in the chassis, to keep a low profile for better looking. Then, the steering axle goes to double bevel gearing to put the axle horizontally on the left. And to finish, a U-joint is used to connect it to the steering wheel. I had not enough place or clutch gearing to add a hand of God, so I decided to keep only the connection to the steering wheel in order to have a correct construction. The drivetrain is rather simple. The rear differential is connected to the engine with a stray axle, which crosses the entire chassis and interior. Due to the difference of size of the tire, I have put the rear axle higher to keep good proportion regarding the ground clearance, which make it visible in the passenger's area. That is why I have hidden it under a central console, which also acts as a reinforcement of the structure. The lighting functions are interesting. I wanted to have a better illumination of the engine than the original model. That is why I have chosen to use the yellow light bricks on the engine, which is stronger, and keep the red one for the rear lights. I have used the engine block on the side of the engine where the light is, because it has a massive central hole which enables to illuminate the engine easily through the transparent material of the cylinders. Then I have placed the light bricks on the correct height and as close as possible to have the best illumination possible. A lever placed on the center of the dashboard is used to push the button on the light bricks. The construction is made in a way that this lever is locked against the light brick button when it is on to ensure a constant functioning and a very satisfying clicking sound. The rear lights are not properly multiple lights on each side, but more a central light composed of red transparent lightsaber, where the differential can be seen. The rear light brick is located behind the seats, on the left of the differential, which results in a complex building with plates to have the correct height without touching the differential. The light power is lower as it's placed further, but as the lightsabers are transparent red, it is enough to illuminate them. The button of the light brick is operated with a small lever located between the seats with a friction pin to ensure a constant functioning. To finish with more design functions, the door can be opened, revealing a detailed interior with the dashboard, with the original stickers, seats and a central console. The hardtop can be removed to have a better accessibility to the steering wheel. That's all for the presentation of the function. Let's talk more about the design process and some building techniques. The design process is not very interesting regarding how I planned the model, but is interesting in some building techniques. First, I have started working on the front axle and make a basic chassis to have the lower profile as possible and scale the creation. Then I create the front grille, which is important and distinctive element. Then I create the engine with the light brick and its detail, such as the intakes, exhaust, because it has to look powerful. After that, I rework the chassis and create the rear axle and then connected the whole together. At this point, I have a pretty good idea what the model will look like. I work next on the steering wheel gearing and the interior, and to finish the rear detail like the light bricks. After some day watching the creation and playing with, I've made some improvement and it was done. Let's talk now about some interesting building techniques. The first building technique is how I create the steering column. It has to handle the gearing and the correct angle of the steering wheel, despite the lack of any fixed connector. I have used the double pin connector with bar on one side and two toggle joints on the other side, which was not easy to implement on the whole assembly with the U-joint and the connection with the bodywork and the chassis. It results in a very dense and complex structure, which I am proud of. The second building technique is how I fix the exhaust on each side. As you can see, they are attached to the chassis only with a friction pin and are locked on the engine, but it was not enough to prevent them from rotating under heavy playing. That is why I have used a construction with a transparent panel, which is placed recessed and underneath the elbow. This construction prevents the whole exhaust assembly to rotate, and as it is thin and dark, it is mostly invisible. The door also have interesting techniques. As the panel I used covers the rotation point, I cannot attach it with two pins on the beam underneath, in order to not create an illegal build. That is why I have attached it only with one pin to authorize a small angle, but I have secured this rotation with other elements inside the door panel. It results in a small angle panel on the door to avoid the collision with the rotation point. The last building technique is about the intake on the engine. It is a pretty complex build with many elbows on the beam and with a center connector to fix the upper section of the intake. I use the connector and the Technic plate to fix the intake tubes. It results in a pretty detailed engine with interesting building techniques. Of course, the model has its limitation. The first is that the model used only 842 parts on the 1359 parts, which seem to be low. But this model is smaller than the original A model and haven't a full bodywork, just a bucket bodywork and open engine area. I have tried to pack as many details I can, but the original inspiration model limits anywhere the number of the parts. Second drawback is technical. The front light is made used a hinge connector which is fixed with a pin and can rotate. If I would have fixed angle connector, I would be able to fix it, but it was not the case here. Last drawback is about the function I would like to build but did not succeed. I wanted at first to make a convertible roof, but I did not succeed with the parts and keeping the profile as low as possible. There was simply not enough room to store the convertible roof on the rear axle without damaging the look. That is why I have created a hardtop instead. Anyway, it is always a compromise to create something in Lego, especially in alternate model, so I am happy with the result. To finish with a global appreciation, I am very happy with the design of this creation. Even if the parts were mostly black, which is useful for the design, the lack of the connector and axle joiner on even axle makes the design a bit tricky to avoid the mismatched color. But in my opinion, I succeeded. I am happy with the detail on the engine, which looks powerful, and the use of certain panels to create interesting shape, like the mudguard on the front bodywork and on the back of the bucket. but also the 6x3 panel to create the rear shape. It gives a nice shape with a low profile vehicle which look like making drag race. Many thanks for your time. If you want to see the original video, please click on the recommended left video. I also put another interesting video if you are new on my channel. Have a look at the link in the description. Please consider subscribing if you like my content. Take care, play well, bye.